The Legend of Zelda is well loved for its charming and memorable characters. Interesting characters is one of the elements of Nintendo games that makes worlds like Hyrule so robust. People like Paya and Purah, Yona and Sidon, or Rauru and Master Koga. There are plenty of folk to theorize about. But for every character we meet, there are others that we only hear about, faint beacons on the edge of history, mentioned briefly and never seen again. In order to bring you characters that are truly obscure, the criteria for selecting who makes the list was that they must not have been someone that we meet or see throughout the adventures. This time around, the focus will be on Breath of the Wild's roster. Without further ado, here are the most mysterious characters from The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. The backstory of Breath of the Wild is a topic that is only lightly fleshed out in the game. Hyrule's king was made aware of the signs of Calamity Ganon's return, as well as the existence of the divine beasts, by the prophecy of an enigmatic seer. This fortune teller is one of the least obscure entries on this list. There have been debates about the identity of this prophet. Some theorists believe that this person was merely a Sheikah attempting to warn the kingdom. Others suspect a dark plot, citing conspiracy theories about the Yiga possibly infiltrating the ranks and planting knowledge of the Guardians as well as the divine beasts so that Calamity Ganon may take them over. When Age of Calamity released, it promised to reveal the backstory of Breath of the Wild in full detail. While that was not exactly what the game delivered, its contents still fueled conjecture about this mysterious fortune teller. Many people jumped at the idea that Aster, the Saturnine Prophet of Doom, was the answer to the identity of Breath of the Wild's soothsayer. It was said that he came from a certain village known for its seers. Dea Village may be this location, as the side quest Eyes That See Far states.
An old man in Dea Village is said to be so knowledgeable. It's like he has all-seeing powers. Give him something rare or otherworldly. He'll tell you the location of that which you seek.
The release of Tears of the Kingdom did not answer the question of the identity of this seer. Who do you think that this mysterious character is? Our favorite protagonist has infrequently been associated with the other members of his bloodline throughout the series. We've met our hero's uncle, his sister, and grandmother, and even heard stories of his mother. Now we can add his father to the list. In Breath of the Wild, we are presented with a sliver of information about Link's father. While it's hardly more than a reference, Princess Zelda does shed some light on this man's history.
Your path seems to mirror your father's. You've dedicated yourself to becoming a knight as well. Your commitment to the training necessary to fulfill your goal is really quite admirable. I see now why you would be the chosen one. What if one day you realized that you just weren't meant to be a fighter? Yet the only thing people ever said was that you were born into a family of the royal guard, and so no matter what you thought, you had to become a knight. If that was the only thing you were ever told, I wonder then, would you have chosen a different path?
Furthermore, in the Japanese edition of Creating a Champion, there is an unused picture of Link standing with a burly man and a young girl. This could give us an idea of what Link's father may have looked like, assuming that that's the man's identity. During a conversation with the winged minstrel Kass, he recounts a story of his beloved teacher who had fallen in love with the princess. In this tale, Kass mentions that Link comes from a family that is neither nobility nor royalty. This informs us that Link's father had no noble bloodline of his own and had to work his way through the ranks as a knight of Hyrule. Speaking of Kass's mentor, The avian bard Kass speaks highly of his beloved teacher. In Breath of the Wild's DLC, Kass mentions that he has a final song that he wishes to share with Link. Before doing so, he gives us a bit of information about his mentor that allows us to learn a bit about his character. This man was a court poet in his youth and a member of the Sheikah. He was around the same age as the princess, and over time he had developed feelings for her. However, when the princess's swordsman was assigned to her, the poet's heart became wrapped in jealousy. He was enraged at the notion that the princess would fall for someone who was not of noble stock. A short time later, the events of the calamity would unfold. As the poet retreated to safety, he witnessed the swordsman lay down his life to save the princess. After learning the details of what happened from Impa, the poet was so moved by Link's sacrifice that he decided to travel the land acquiring songs of the ancient hero of 10,000 years ago. Since Tears of the Kingdom has released, it now seems possible that the songs Kass's teacher sought out may have referred to the ancient hero's aspect. The next entry is a character whose absence had a profound impact on the fate of Hyrule during Breath of the Wild. Zelda's mother was a woman who was beloved by her kingdom. Her duty was to instruct Princess Zelda on awakening her sealing power. However, her life was suddenly cut short. Unable to help her daughter unlock her power, the ramifications of this tragedy unfold into the events of Breath of the Wild. The queen's best friend, Urbosa of the Gerudo, was so close to her that she often prayed to her after her passing. In Urbosa's journals, she details several events concerning Zelda's mother. The queen must have considered Urbosa to be family, as she makes certain that her friend meets her newborn child, Princess Zelda. Urbosa goes on to write of how her friend's passing filled her with sorrow for a long time. She recounts some of the details regarding the funeral of the queen and how Zelda must have been devastated, but she put on a strong face. We do get a brief glimpse of how the queen may have looked in Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity. For a split second, Princess Zelda spins around to show her mother the work she had done on the small guardian, Terraco. We can see that her mother appears to be wearing the same royal dress as Zelda herself does many years later. A glimpse of Zelda's mother is a rare thing in the series, but there was one other time in The Wind Waker where we got to see what she looked like. Dorian is a man with a shadowed past. He guards the home of the village chief, Impa, and is the father to a pair of young girls, Katla and Coco. His wife was assassinated due to Dorian leaving the Yiga clan to pursue a life in Kakariko amongst the Sheikah. Later in Breath of the Wild, the Yiga will eventually come for his life as well, only to be thwarted by Link. In a fashion similar to Urbosa and the Queen of Hyrule, Dorian and his girls also pray to their loved one. We can find the family praying at the grave to his wife, which lies just outside of town. The youngest daughter, Katla, acts as if her mother is just hiding and is playing a game with her. The older of the sisters, Coco, is aware of her mother's passing and visits her grave often. In Tears of the Kingdom, we can find a notebook written by the girl's mother. In it, she talks about the love she has for her family, commenting on the hard-working nature of her husband, the cuteness of Katla, and the maturity of Coco. Dorian's wife may have originally been planned to have a quest related to her. In the book Creating a Champion, on page 102, there is a small artwork of a ghostly Sheikah woman beneath a tree. Could this have been a depiction of Dorian's wife that never made it into the game? The royal court was surely filled with many people who we never learn about. However, a certain member of that court does have a small acknowledgement in one of Breath of the Wild's many side quests. That member is the Chancellor of Hyrule. The first mention of his existence is uttered by a young man at Riverside Stable. During a brief conversation with this fellow, he will mention that he is the descendant of the royal family's chef, an obscure character in his own right, but a bit too unimportant to make this list. Upon speaking to this beauty-obsessed individual about the contents of the royal family's cookbook, he will make the following statement when the topic of monster cake is brought up.
This monster cake is said to have been a favorite of the Minister of Hyrule.
Furthermore, if we examine the pages of the cookbook itself, we can get another bit of information. It reads,
The royal family's secret recipe number 2. The Chancellor's favorite. Stew monster extract, tabantha wheat, cane sugar, and goat butter for a spell. It's a dangerous dish that makes your head fuzzy and may even motivate you to plan evil schemes.
The fact that Hyrule's Chancellor was happy to consume a dish that encourages evil schemes is theorized by fans to be an Easter egg, a reference to Chancellor Cole from The Legend of Zelda Spirit Tracks. The trope of a Chancellor being secretly evil is common to many stories, and The Legend of Zelda is no exception. The famed culinary character known as Chef Aurie Taamu has a sizable amount of lore associated with him in comparison to some of the other individuals on this list. The effects of the Master of Cuisine's exploits are most strongly felt in the Gerudo region, and this information also enriches the backstory of several other characters as well. For the sake of brevity, I'll keep the illuminations about this man brief. However, I do believe that there is enough information that may warrant a video dedicated to this character alone, as there are many connections he has with certain other familiar Zelda characters. The most obvious fact about this chef is that he is an avid author, as throughout both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, he leaves copious quantities of writings, both professional and personal, for Link to discover. We can confirm that he is quite the adventurer. From spelunking the wells and caves of Hyrule, slaying monsters, and growing gardens, he is not your average citizen of the land. Of course, adventuring and cooking isn't all that he's about. Aurie Taamu has even managed to entangle himself in a love triangle among the Vi of Gerudo Town. Since Vo are not allowed into Gerudo Town, it is likely that the two Vi, Ashai and Isha, both encountered this man on their journeys to find a Vo to marry. For one reason or another, neither woman was able to claim him as their husband. Afterwards, the two Gerudo gals returned home, and the self-proclaimed Wizard of Food apparently spent his days living in one of Hyrule's wells up until the time of the upheaval in Tears of the Kingdom. Characters like Chef Aurie Taamu and the Great Bandit Misko have even more detailed portrayals in Tears of the Kingdom. Please look forward to hearing more about them when the video featuring Tears of the Kingdom's most obscure characters comes out. At the time of this project's upload, the Zelda Notes feature will likely be out, and I suspect that it may reveal even more about some of the characters mentioned here. If you know some lore about these characters that was not brought up in the video, share your findings with everyone in the comments section. Leaving a like on the video as well as a subscription to the channel would mean a lot, and I thank you for your support. My name is Caleb, and I'll see you all in the next video here on the Fused Kinstone.